Hello, I'm Macintosh. It sure is great to get out of that bag. Unaccustomed as I am to public speaking, I'd like to share with you a maxim I thought of the first time I made an IBM mainframe. Never trust a computer you can't live.
Now, you see that video, right? I don't know if I'm making this because I just found that through on the short. Okay. You see that? He said, hello, my name is Macintosh. It feels good to be public speaking or let out that bag again. It feels good to be public speaking or something like that. That goes to show, like I just said in this video, later on down the line, I said it somewhere in the video, it's kind of towards the end, that computers might actually be what we call resets. We see they trying to put our consciousness inside of humans, inside of robots and video games and all this other stuff, right? What if them NPCs we call NPCs is actually real people? They just put their mind in there and then they program them to be them extra people just walking on the side. But then they got this video game now that they can talk to the actual people and they can kind of comprehend what they saying. Like, it's this video that was going around and he would be like, hello, you're not real. And they would be like, oh, I'm not real, so what does this mean? And like, you know what I'm saying? That was in there. So what if that's actually what is the reset? And then the famous people is actually, listen, you're gonna see it in the video. I said I might be on to something. And every time I get a download from the true creator and I get a question, I find the answer. I'm gonna see if I can find the rest of that video. I might leave it right there. I'm gonna leave the rest of the video right there. You can find it. I just to find the video again, I put in early or first computer script writer, or first computer script, something like along the lines. First computer script writer, or 19. You seen what the video was called from there, early AI script. Just search that and you'll find it. And I paused it, but also guess what? Guess what we got today? I'm on it today, Macintosh. Nigga, my computer is running off that Apple, man, bro. Nigga. That's crazy.
What if that is a time machine? Because look, I was actually, look, hold on. Scrolling through my settings. I'm trying to find my, this download that I had. It's called Black Hole, so y'all can so I can record and it can sound good, unlike my first videos. But, look what it say. It's a time machine. Let me get that off. Time machine backs up your computer and keeps local snapshots and hourly backups for the past 24 hours, right? The oldest backups in local data, whatever, right? What if that is a time machine? What if they really are time traveling? They just store their memory in a machine and then they can put it back into another body, so say, like on that one movie Us, or not Us, but Get Out. They swapping consciousness. Boy,
Savvy, let them know.
Hey, it's Trey. Turn it up.
Wavy, ooh, yeah, ah, wavy, ooh, yeah, ah, wavy, ooh, ah, yeah, wavy, ooh, yeah, ah, wavy.
What's good, Savvy crew? I'm coming back with another video, and this one, I ain't gonna really probably do too much talking on this one. This is on the video I've been telling y'all about in my other videos about how they been had AI. I believe this is either 1821 or 1921, the date of it. And this goes to show how long they've been had this. We just didn't know. It's a computer. It's the first model computer that can write pretty much script, can write movies and plays and stuff like that. I I ain't gonna even waste no more time. We just gonna jump straight into it, cause watch. This explains why all the storylines of the movies back then was so similar. And there was some cowboy theme movie with the same music, same looking theme. Just watch. This is gonna show. This is gonna show it.
Tomorrow, a preview of the future as it begins to take shape in the laboratories of the world. Produced by the CBS television network. Commemorating the centennial celebration of the Massachusetts Institute of Technology.
Good evening. I'm David Wayne, and as all of you are,
Also, it's raining right now, so it's a perfect time just chill and watch this. You feel me? Just chill and watch this. Let's get back to it.
concerned with the world in which we're going to live tomorrow. A world in which a new machine, the digital computer, may be of even greater importance than the atomic bomb. Can machines really think? Even the scientists argue that one.
I don't believe that we can say yet that machines do think. I have a basic question which I always ask, and that is, are these producing anything really new? Until I see a machine producing genuinely new things, I will not agree that machines think.
I confidently expect that within a matter of 10 or 15 years, something will emerge from the laboratories which is not too far from the robot of science fiction fame.
They called it back then, even back then, the thinking machine. So you see what it's been programmed for in the first place. It's in the name.
Thinking Machine. Starring David Wayne. In a moment, that story.
Hello again. With me tonight is Professor Jerome B. Wiesner, Director of the Research Laboratory of Electronics at MIT. Dr. Wiesner, what really worries me today is what's going to happen to us if machines can think. And what interests me specifically is, can they?
Well, that's a very hard question to answer. If you'd asked me that question just a few years ago, I'd have said it was very far-fetched. And today I just have to admit I don't really know. I suspect if you come back in 4 or 5 years, I'll say, sure, they really do think.
Well, if you're confused, Doctor, how do you think I feel? Professor Wiesner, I don't think I have to tell you that the conception of the robot, a thinking machine, has been man's dream for centuries, also his nightmare. Of course, up until recent.
And this was back then. This is what he said. This has been man's dream for centuries. So this tells you how long they probably been cooking up these plans, talking to the ones they got the technology from in the first place, which is most likely the fallen angels, the gods, deities.
The exploitation of that dream has been
But of this earth.
largely in the hands of science fiction writers and my colleagues in the motion picture industry. Do you remember a great robot in the silent film Metropolis?
No, I don't think I ever saw that one.
Well, I'd like you to see that.
It'd be very nice.
Okay, Charlie, roll it.
Look at that, even back then. I already watched this, but it's been a cool minute. And I couldn't find it at first either. I finally found it. It's called Computer History Museum, the channel's page. The name of the video is The Thinking Machine. But look, even back then, bro, look how they showing that. how many artists, I forgot what that artist, what is that? Dang, it's like an old song, but in the music video, they was turning people, I think, I can't even buy you flowers. Was it the perfect soulmate? Talk to me, girl. That dude, that black dude, Timberlake. I don't know. I forgot what his name was. But that looked like, or I think it was it Nicki Minaj with the, she had another video back then too, where she was showing some stuff like that. But how, bro, this was even back then. They have, this how you know they planned everything out that's going on today. Even this so-called mass awakening. They had put people out there, them fake AI accounts, which is what we call bot accounts, and they put them out there, and so they can persuade everybody. Because like I said in that one video, one of my last videos, a regular person like me or you is not just gonna go viral off of posting a meme or something like that. It may go somewhere, it may do a little something, but it's not gonna go around the world. Them is accounts set up to move the public, to persuade the people pretty much. That's all it is. Because you notice after every meme come out, we do it for a little bit and then it fade. Listen, I did an intro video. I tried to find funny memes that was popping and viral back then. Do you realize it's hard to even find memes to pop up now? The shmoney dance about a week ago. But I was trying to find, I remember the internet was flooded with those videos. Now I can't even find nothing but Bobby Shmurda's video, barely, or some old ass Vine compilation type videos. And nah, but that's crazy. This even back then, that, now just watch how this motherfucker write these plays though. And they gonna change it up so it can do different scenery and scripts. That's why all the music sounded like that, most likely. That's why no movies today can most likely change up the theme. It's always the same theme, but different theme, or the same themes, but just a different play. Like the Taken movies, there's always some movies where somebody gets kidnapped or their parents die or something like that. Then they go seek revenge, grow up and seek revenge, or then they get to finding out they take out different people just to get to the head person. That's literally, or some comedy movie about how, literally all the movies is the same, and you wonder why, because they then had AI writing this stuff. Goes for the music too. They showing transhumanism or some type of alien-like being right here. Transhumanism back then. I think it might be 1960. I don't know, but I know it's a pretty old film for them to have this. Like, this goes to show it's playing. Like, I don't know if I said this in the video, but if I work for, I have said it in the video. I said, I think in one of my last videos, if you work for a company that's designing stuff, you know what's gonna come out in the next couple of years because you work there. But if you went up to a person on the street and you told them that something was gonna happen, that this car was gonna be, or this product or whatever was gonna be able to do all this unthinkable things, next thing you know, a couple years later they happen, you would look at that dude like he is somebody, like a prophet or something, right? So that's literally what they're doing. They're writing out the script and just making it come to life pretty much. Now, if you don't know, once again, I'm gonna break some of this down. I ain't gonna do too much talking and preaching today, but they showed that color, that pale race looking being, because the symbolism of that is the falling angels. Because that's supposedly the theory of like they came from like from which is go watch my Is Jesus a Vampire movie, but Agartha and the video in the one before that same day. It's like these pale beings that is the fallen angels pretty much, and they are in the middle of the earth or the inner world, Agartha, and they have technology that is far superior than ours. And this is where they be getting all these ideas from, because they be talking to these people.
That movie...
and they literally showing us right here and been showing us in movies and everything else.
That professor is still way ahead of us, you know.
Is he?
He is, and you know, if I'd seen that movie as a youngster, I'd probably been afraid of science.
Doctor, when that film was made, and it wasn't too long ago, the thinking machine concept was still in the realm of make-believe. What do you think about it today?
Well, the reason that's such a very hard question to answer is we know so very little about thought processes or about information that makes up thought processes. You know, there are many things which machines can do today, which if they were done by human beings, you would certainly call thinking. Have you ever watched a child try to learn the alphabet? I've got a piece of film here that I'd like to have you see.
Down, up, down, up. Do you know that letter? M? No, it looks like an M, but it isn't. It's a W. An M upside down, isn't it? I'm going to make an X there, and you see if you can draw over the same lines that I make. Down, up, down, and up. Can you do that? The same lines, honey. That's right.
And I just got this download. So, okay, so science. I searched up what the word science is because, you know, they have conscious and then they have conscious. But it's spelled two different ways. The other one is spelled like conscious, the way it sounds, then the other one is spelled like conscience, okay? So I searched up what both of those, what those actually mean, right? And I believe science they made it into more than what it actually is. I believe science was first originally created because it was the study of human body, the human anatomy, right? And that's why they call it computer science, because it's supposed to be it's supposed to be sort of like neurons in a person's brain. When a computer think, the way they setting it up and the way that computers think, it's sort of like neurons firing in a person's brain, right? So that's why they call it computer science. Because they're literally getting this whole time they was getting people ready for transhumanism, putting their consciousness, you pretty much just put people's consciousness inside of a robot, putting people's brains inside of a robot. That's all they was making computers for really, is so they can be able to stay here on this material realm. Because listen, that's a whole nother video. Let's just get back to this. But I explained some of it in my last video.
That's fine. What letter is it? W. That's right, good. Now you see if you can make it.
Of course she makes mistakes at first. The real question is, how does she ever learn to get them right?
I can copy yours. That's right, you copy mine.
Well, do you mean to tell me that you don't even know yet how a child learns the letters of the alphabet?
Psychologists who study the problem have a lot of ideas about what goes on, but no real explanation. A letter is simply a pattern, and we don't yet know how the brain recognizes patterns.
Do you know what letter that is? How? No, it's a P.
Well, do you think you'll ever understand?
Oh, and I was also saying that because saying that conscious was a study of the human body, though. I was also saying that because that's where genetic splicing and being able to mess with genes and DNA come from is, even back then they knew how to do that. They knew about DNA, genetic splicing and stuff like that.
Problems.
It was on hieroglyphs in Egypt.
So, that's one reason we're so interested in the computer and what it can be made to do.
Are you suggesting that the computer can do what this child is doing?
Yes, I am. The computer is a remarkable machine, and later on in the program we're going to see it write an original TV Western. But first, let's see how the youngster is doing here.
What letter is it?
L.
P. Now, can you tell me what this letter is? Do you remember this one? It's a W.
Now let's see if the computer has as much trouble with the alphabet.
You mean we're going to see the computer do what the child did?
I hope so.
Now watch that. Now watch this. So it flashed with a series of red lights or something like that, and they have to write it down, write the code down out of that or something like that, translate it. But watch machine, nigga. Look. What I believe is they just found ways to make the computer smaller, but it's always been as smart as it was since they created it. It just adapts over time like a human brain. So I feel like, because that's the way they made it to be. You know how in the iRobot movie and Will Smith, they was in that big old facility or laboratory, and then it was like the main computer or something like that. She could override Cora, I forgot what her name was, but you could override the rest of the robots and turn them bad or something like that. I feel like they got something like that. They got a place like of course they do, where it's the main computer central hub where all the information and data go. I feel like these movies be giving us clues, man. But watch how smart this mug was even back then.
Now, does that really prove that machines can learn?
I'll tell you what it does. It compares the letter you write with the letter you first showed it. And as it gets more and more information about what is called a W, for example, it is more and more better able to make a judgment about whether the letter that's being written on the screen is in fact a W or not. Let's see.
Okay, Larry, let's read in the program again.
Well, at least I know what a program is. A program's the rules you want the computer to follow.
So he pretty much said what I said, basically. He pretty much just said that if the machine, you show the machine the W, and the more you show it over time, the more it will understand it the different way. Like you could write how everybody got different handwriting, but you show that different forms of W's, it's going to be able to adapt and read all of that. So while whatever computer you got, phone, laptop, whatever, that mug has been reading you since day one, pretty much. And now I'm pretty sure that mug can even read your brain, which is why it scans every the camera, it be taking pictures every 5 minutes. Shout out to my brother, he said it, but it be taking like pictures of your frontal lobe and shit like that. So it cannot really, like, it's literally reading your mind, which is why you don't even have to say something sometimes, and it'll pick it up and put it on your, as like an ad or something.
Now what are they doing? Showing the computer the alphabet for the first time?
Yes, just the same way the teacher did with a child. Incidentally, for convenience, you see we're using P's and W's too.
Okay, now we have those characters in the machine. We'll try some tests with them. This is W. Call it a D. It's pretty poor, but on the other hand, it doesn't have much knowledge. Well, here's a P for it. Try another P. Should get it this time. Okay. Wow.
Well, now that's luck. That's pure luck.
No, as a matter of fact, one thing the computer can't do is fool the teacher. On the next try, look at the line below the letter. The longer the line, the surer the computer is of its answer.
Good enough. That's a pretty good percentage as indicated by that bottom bar. 80%, sure. That's pretty good.
Now, do you call that learning?
Well, I know that if my wife and I saw our kids going through that process, we'd call it learning. So, machines really can learn.
You know, we don't really know much about the thought processes, and this is why I'm so hesitant. But we are studying the problem. It's being studied in a very many places and by people in many disciplines.
You mean psychologists, psychiatrists, philosophers, and so on?
Yes, and electrical engineers and mathematicians and others.
Well, if the computer is this important, why haven't I heard more about it?
Well, the computer is a relatively new thing, and we're just really getting an appreciation for the full range of its usefulness. Many people think it's going to spark a revolution that will change the face of the earth almost as much as the first industrial revolution did.
Well, now this brings me back to my original question. Can machines think? Now, I mean by that thinking, that process we try to avoid when we have a problem to solve.
You mean like I'm trying to do in avoiding your question? Do you remember that puzzle about the cannibals and the missionaries?
I do remember that. That's when we tried to cross the river with the missionaries and the cannibals without the missionaries getting eaten.
Yes, that's the one. Well, out at Carnegie Tech, Professors Simon and Newell are doing some very interesting work trying to understand that kind of logical problem. Let me show you.
Then here's the problem.
This is Professor H.A. Simon.
3 missionaries and 3 cannibals are trying to cross a broad river so that they can reach a town on the other side. They have a rowboat, the cannibals. They have a rowboat, which will, however, hold only 2 at a time. All of them know how to row. There's one difficulty. No group of missionaries and cannibals may be on either side of the river at any time if the cannibals in the group outnumber the missionaries, because the missionaries would be eaten.
So, I guess right now what they're doing is showing the different processes of how a human learns versus how a computer learns.
The problem is to plan a series of trips.
Or taking details, pretty much learning, but how a computer takes in details and how a human brain takes in details and figure out how to solve the problem, pretty much, so learning.
All 3 missionaries and all 3 cannibals across the river in the boat without anyone being eaten. Do you have any questions now, Barbara? Well, you may start now. Please remember to say aloud as much as you can about what you're thinking, and you may move the missionaries and cannibals to try different combinations of them.
There's only one boat.
There's just one boat, and only 2 can sit in it at a time. Why don't you take them across and see how it would work, remembering that the boat always has to come back with someone to get the next load.
Then I have the missionary bring the boat back and take one of the missionaries.
Careful, that man is going to get eaten.
Well, I guess I wouldn't do that. Is it possible for any of them to swim?
No, I'm afraid they are non-swimmers.
Well, I'll bring one of the missionaries over by himself.
Poor Barbara. You know, I sympathize with her. I remember how baffled I was the first time I tried that problem.
Well, Barbara's bright, and she'll get it after a bit. As a matter of fact, in a moment I'll show you her solution. That's why Professor Simon asked her to talk aloud as she works. They'll have a record of what she says.
And then I'll bring the other one over, and that's it.
Very good. That's the correct solution. And now we'll go and...
And you see what that goes back to one of my other videos. I was talking about how in movies they be showing like people be solving out and talking out loud, but well, in their head they saying it, but they having them say it out loud so we can hear what they're thinking, and they solving some some super math equation, or they're trying to solve some problem or something, and maybe if I do this, then it'll do this, and then it'll activate this, or something like that, when they be thinking. Pay attention to that, because they're showing you how to solve things in the real world. They have to show you what they do before, they have to tell you what they do before they do. So it's part of their karma, pretty much. Like, they have to tell you what they do before they do it.
Try the thing
Which is why they put everything in kids, movies, and shows and stuff like that.
out with the computer on the coast.
Oh, no. Now, don't tell me you're going to try to get that computer to do the same thing. Has it found a solution already?
Yeah, and in just a second we'll have a chance to look at the answer.
Is that the answer you have there?
Yes, as a matter of fact, it's both answers. We've typed out Barbara's solution on computer paper 2. Can you tell which is which?
Do I have to answer that? How does the machine do it, Doctor?
Well, Professor Simon thinks that logical processes are really quite simple and only appear complex because there are so many of them in cascade.
Well, does that mean that the machine tries every possible answer?
No, it does just what a person does. It tries those things which seem most likely.
Well, how does the machine know what's likely?
Well, a person knows what's likely on a basis of experience. The machine knows what's most likely on a basis of probabilities or reasonableness that has been programmed into it, that is told to it in advance.
Well, what else can computers do?
Well, many things, though, as I've already said, we're just really beginning to understand the capabilities of the computers.
I've got some film to illustrate this point, which I think will amaze you.
That man isn't playing checkers against a computer, is he?
Sure, and it plays pretty well.
Now, which color is the machine playing?
Black. The player pushes those switches to tell the machine his moves. Incidentally, he has to make the machine's moves on the checkerboard as well.
Well, then how does he determine the machine's moves?
By watching those lights on the console. The machine also prints out its moves.
Who's that watching?
He's Dr. A.L. Samuel, an MIT graduate, now with IBM. Dr. Samuel...
So when they be talking about they programming computers, is this what they be doing, mother? Not what we think we be doing, like thinking we programming. No, this is what they doing. They and that motherfucker playing chess and motherfucking checkers with that motherfucker, having it solve problems so it can think better. By the time it get out to us, it'll already be super smart or something like that. Is that what they mean by what they be in that motherfucker playing with the computers, programming computers and shit? People say, well, back then, they was talking about they was a computer programmer or something. Is this what they was doing?
Programmed the computer to play checkers so he could study machine learning.
See how well that they could write plays and movies and stuff and fool us?
Let's see what it's printing out now.
How in the world did it do that? Dr. Wiesner, how does a computer work?
Well, it would take too long to give you a detailed explanation, but I think I can give you a simple explanation of the principles if you want. You can make a little box that you can put signals into, and every time you put a pulse into it, it adds. And with these devices, you can make adders, you can make multipliers, and you can make devices which do a number of other mathematical operations. Now, with these various building blocks, and that takes just a very few of them, you can organize much more complicated mathematical problems. And what you do is what we call programming. You lay out a series of steps, and you have to tell the machine every blessed single step you want.
And listen, I'm sorry for pausing, but I don't even know how I found this video because it only has 308 views. You see, I put it on the screen right there. It only got 308 views, so I don't know how it popped over on stuff. But I'm glad it did. Must have been for a reason. universe works in mysterious ways. So it was meant for me to show this. And just like that investment joy person, he don't even do nothing about artifacts, but for some reason they invited him to go see that. And I used to watch him, and then he eventually just popped back up, and then I scrolled through his videos and found that. So.
Because it can't do anything unless you do this. And this we call a program. We feed it into the machine, and it carries out the operations we've told it to do one at a time. Of course, there is a saving grace here, which is very important. And once the machine has learned how to do something, it can print out into its permanent memory the tape or on a piece of paper of the kind we've seen, the instructions for doing this, and you never have to think about that particular thing again.
Well, does the nervous system work like a computer?
You know, I would put it in this video. I would put it at the beginning or probably ending at this video too. The investment joy that I keep talking about, I might make that so I ain't gotta always keep bringing it up. I might just keep it at the end or in the beginning of videos or something.
No.
Or when I make videos about my heritage, my culture, being Indian.
Though there are many similarities between computers and living nervous systems, but neurophysiologists who work on the problem think there are many more differences than there are similarities. The fact of the matter is, though, that both systems use electrical signals, that is, electrical potentials and pulses.
Well, then by following the complicated steps that a computer takes, the steps and stages in solving a problem, can you learn how or more about how the nervous system works?
Well, what you can learn is a good deal about thought processes, or at least simulated thought processes by this method, but it's very dangerous to carry this analogy too far.
Well, if I told you all about my particular problem, could you solve that on a computer?
Well, it'd probably take a psychiatrist.
That's my problem. I think I better ask my question over again. You have to tell a computer what to do. In other words, all of the computers that we've seen have been programmed, that is, have been told by men what to do.
Yes, but you know, that's really not a valid argument, because there's every evidence that men are programmed too, that is, they have certain built-in programming.
Now, wait a minute, Dr. Wiesner. Are you suggesting that men are born with something put in their brains, like men put information into a computer?
Yes, they're not only born this way, but they get programming in other ways. That is, there are really two ways in which you can get programming. There is the hereditary part, that is the part you're born with. You can also get information or programming in your brain by experience, that is, by learning.
Well, surely in higher animals, learning is more important.
We like to think that anyway.
Can you give me an example of programming in something that's alive?
Yes, I can. I've got something over here. Can you tell me what this silhouette's supposed to represent?
Well, it doesn't remind me of anything in particular.
If I hold it up here like this, does it look like a goose to you?
Yes, it does.
Now, if I turn it around, what's it make you think of?
Well, if we're still thinking about birds, I'd say it was a hawk.
Did pretty well. Let's see if a duck can do as well.
The ducklings used in this experiment have been raised in isolation. They've never seen any other birds.
And there I see is our friend the goose. Well, there wasn't any reaction at all, was there?
No, there wasn't. That's what interested Professor Melzack. You're seeing what happened when he first did this experiment in the London Zoo. If you were a duck, would you worry if you saw a goose?
You mean he will worry when Professor Melzack changes that goose into a hawk?
Well, let's watch.
Well, that's a really frightened duck.
Well, not all ducks react this way. Some are simply wary when they see their first hawk.
I gather from this is that this duck that never had been exposed in its life to any other kind of a bird can now suddenly differentiate between...
And if you think about it, my nigga, bro, they edited this and put music behind it. Even back then, for movies, they been had this. How else was they putting it on TV, editing it and doing all that? Come on, they been had this. They just released it to us. Whatever they released to us is old to them. They're working on some other shit.
Goose and a hawk. Now, you call that some kind of programming. To me, that's what I would call instinct.
Well, I'd agree with you.
Or they got tired, pretty much, yeah, they don't want it no more. They got tired of using it. Like a kid playing with toys, they don't want it no more, so they must just sit there, or they be giving away or something.
Instinct is the word you use. I'm using programming, or at least that part of programming which is determined by heredity. You see, animals seem to start life with a large part of their nervous system knowing what to do. That's the reason why we breathe and why our heart beats and why babies know how to cry or when to cry when they need help.
Well, do you mean that instinct turns out to be some kind of programming that we're born with?
Yes, that's using our language. Let me show you some very interesting research that was done on the frog last year at MIT by Professors Letman and Maturano, which seems to indicate that some animals, at least, are born with very much more built-in information than we used to suspect was the case.
Well, does it show that we're born with programming?
Well, what it does show is that in the frog, at least, the frog's eye reports only very specific information to the brain.
You mean that the optic nerve of the frog doesn't report everything it sees?
No, it reports only very specific things, things which seem to be very important to the survival of the frog. Let's take a look at the next film.
Well, now, the frog doesn't pay any attention to those dead flies. Isn't he hungry?
Sure, but his eyes don't see them. He's hungry, all right. Watch.
Well, if he didn't eat any of the dead flies, why did he eat the fly on the string?
Well, you know, that's what Professor Letman's trying to find out. It seems that the frog only sees things that move. Here, Letman's looking through the microscope into the frog's brain, preparing to put a tiny electrode into one of the fibers in the frog's optic nerve.
You mean when the fiber sees something, it'll send a signal through the electrode that we can see?
Yes, and you'll hear it, too. Now Professor Letman is putting a target, that semicircular hemisphere, in front of the frog's eye. And then, using a magnet on the back of the target, he can move a small metal disc around the target until he finds the exact point at which the particular fiber is looking. There, he's found it. See, it sends an electrical signal through the electrode.
Well, what's the professor doing now?
Well, he's trying to find out just what kind of things make this particular fiber react.
It looks to me as though this fiber reacts every time something moves.
It does.
Well, that could explain why the frog didn't eat the dead flies. They didn't move, so he couldn't see them.
Well, that's Professor Letman's suggestion, anyway. He said to himself, suppose the fibers in a frog's eye look only for specific kinds of things in the world around them. Now, as we've seen, one kind of fiber apparently only reports movement. And here, Professor Letman is looking for a different kind. You see, this fiber reports to the brain when anything small enough to eat moves into view, and it keeps reporting as long as the object remains there.
Well, why did it stop reporting when the light went out and then fail to report when it came back on?
Well, think of the light going off as a shadow passing overhead, an owl, say. And apparently in a dangerous situation, the frog's eye only reports the danger, not food. Watch now as a long bar has passed through the field of vision. The bar is too straight and too big to be a bug, so you see there is no reaction. And Professor Letman's work suggests that the fibers from the frog's eye only report specific things to the brain, things related to the frog's survival. One group of fibers looks only for sharp edges. Another group, this one, seems to be a bug detector.
Well, now, I was always under the impression that the eye reported all light patterns.
And so are we all. I ought to add, though, that Professor Letvin's theories are not yet accepted by all people in the scientific community, or at least insofar as the implications about human vision are concerned.
Well, if Professor Letvin's theories are correct, we would have some explanation for instinct, wouldn't we?
Well, the existence of built-in coding or instinct was never really in doubt, although this is a very interesting demonstration of it. The demonstration, at least of one kind of instinct, because it's obvious that the frog didn't learn to recognize flies, but was born with this ability already in its brain.
Well, now, if I may say so, people aren't frogs, are they?
So that that goes to show right there that everything really does has consciousness, but it only sees what it is programmed to see. So it's literally living in its own world while living in the world. So just like us, the only difference is they pretty much, I guess you could call it, don't have free will. We have free will. So we can think what we program to have to, we can think about anything. We have pretty much unlimited, like the cosmos, like the universe. We have unlimited thoughts, pretty much. And there ain't one thing man has not have most likely thought of. That's why there's nothing new under the sun. But so we there's a world. We probably a world inside of a world, maybe, who knows? Because we are a world inside of a world, because we only program to see what we can see. There's a whole other spectrum of light on both sides of the scale that we can't see. Ultraviolet and UV rays. Or so who knows what else we're missing? And like, once again, what other things can see. That's why when you see a dog stare off somewhere and be staring for a long time, who knows what they're really looking at? We don't know what animals know or think, but they know and they'll think about their nature, just like he showed. It's smart enough to know, like, okay, this ain't food, so I'm not gonna eat this. But it's smart enough to know, okay, this is food, now let me get this. I'm hungry, I need to eat. They programmed to know this stuff, but probably only just that. Because if they was programmed with more thinking like us, nigga, who knows what would be happening on this world? And maybe at one point they was. Which was how they was able to supposedly talk. But I believe that was a hybrid type animal. But who knows? But yeah, that goes to show it's a whole other world we don't see, which is the spiritual side, the stuff we can't see.
Well, no one really suggests that people are pre-coded to the same extent that frogs are, but it's very clear that people also are.
And they call it dark matter, though, or something like that.
A certain amount of information built into their nervous system. Let me show you something that'll prove this point.
We're going to Geneva to the laboratories of Professor Jean Piaget and his associates. This is Dr. Barbel Inhelder working with a youngster of 5. By the way, how's your French, Mr. Wayne?
Well, it's not very good, I'm sorry to say.
Well, Dr. Inhelder here is filling one glass with milk. Then she's asking the child to fill his with exactly the same amount as she has in hers.
Du lait à boire exactement la même chose.
The boy says, you've a little too much.
And think about this. They're also smart enough to know that you're their owner or parent, so say. So if they leave from you, they might not be able to eat again. So that's consciousness to me.
C'est maintenant la
Is it now the same height?
Oui. Oh non, non, pas encore. Faut que ce soit exact. Voilà. Exactement la même chose.
Là, c'est la même chose.
Exactement la même chose. Regarde. C'est parfait.
Non.
He's a real stickler, isn't he?
Comme ça?
Oui.
Voilà. On a exactement la même chose à boire?
Oui.
Alors, moi, j'aimerais boire mon lait dans ce grand verre.
I would prefer to drink my milk in the tall glass.
Voilà.
I have poured it all in the tall glass.
Tu vois?
Oui.
Alors, regarde. Toi,
You and I, have we still the same amount?
de lait à boire?
Non.
Non. Qui a
Who
plus
has
à
more?
boire?
Vert.
Ici, dans ce verre,
this
il y a
glass?
plus à boire. Comment le
But
voir?
how do you know?
Parce qu'il est plus grand.
Because it is taller.
C'est chaud.
That's delightful, isn't it? Now, how could that child make that mistake?
Well, apparently, when we're born, we rely exclusively on our eyes to form our concepts of the world around us.
And I'm glad he said that, because that's literally what they have programmed us to do. Just think with our eyes. That's it. That's literally what we have been programmed to do over the years. Don't ask no questions. So you can't think on nothing. You have no time to ponder. You have no time to think or wonder or pretty much gain wisdom, gain knowledge. That's what they was telling us. That's pretty much what in slavery, that's what they because we couldn't read, we couldn't do none of that. So they didn't want us to get smart to figure out their plans, because I'm pretty sure if we could, you know what I'm saying? I'm pretty sure there was people that already kind of knew something, but because there were some whistleblowers or something, and they told the other tribes, and then it kind of spread around or something, what was going on, who knows? But yeah, that's crazy.
Had certain preconceived notions of the world around him, and some of these are wrong, and as he grows up, he's going to have to learn to correct them.
Well, then our eye apparently is programmed to tell us that that which is taller holds more.
Yes, and in nature, isn't that generally the case?
Well, I've always been under the impression that seeing is believing.
Well, actually, it's just the opposite. These experiments indicate that we tend to see only those attributes of objects which our nervous system is designed and programmed to see.
Then seeing isn't believing, but believing is seeing?
Well, it works both ways, but certainly believing is seeing. Watch this next piece of film.
Okay.
But also I want to say that's what senses is for. Because if animals just only relied on their eyes, a lot of them would be dead. But a lot of them has senses. They feel something is finna happen, or they have hairs that tingle or something like that, just like we do. But they have hairs that tingle or something like that, that they can feel something is finna happen, so they can run away real fast or something. If they just relied on their eyes, you behind them, so you finna come up and swallow them. They will be dead. But because they felt it, they can fly away or run away real quick. We have senses too. We was just trained not to use them anymore and just rely on our eyes.
Professor Wiesner, I've seen this before. Now, that window isn't square. You see, one side is longer than the other.
Yes, but no matter how many times you've seen it, I'll bet you still...
And that's also why I believe well, not I believe, but that's also why another reason why they call it television. Because tele, the root word of that is, or Latin or Greek or something like that, it comes from one of those, and it means vision. So, and then vision, you're seeing a vision, but also it has lie in there too. So you're seeing lies. You're watching lies. Literally.
See through the illusion. What's the window doing now?
It's revolving. I know it's revolving.
Of course it is. But I'm certain that you don't see it that way. You see it as though it were oscillating back and forth.
Well, as a matter of fact, you're right.
You see, your eyes tell you that anything that is longer is closer to you, and your experience tends to confirm this. So you have to see the long side of the window as though it were in front, even when it's in back. You just can't see it revolve. Now, let's cover the window with a cloth. The cloth sides are equal in length. Now maybe your brain will let you see the window rotate. Look at the bottom corner of the cloth. Now do you see it revolve?
Yes, I do.
I ain't gonna lie, that still tricked me up because I still didn't catch it till the second time. That's what happened the first time. I ain't catch it till the second time it went around.
Now let's put a tube through the window. What do you see this time?
Well, that tube is bending back on itself.
You know why? That's because you've assumed the tube is made of rubber. Now, if you tell yourself that it's made of steel, you'll see it cut through the window.
Boy, that shit crazy. That goes to show how much your eyes can trick you, bro. That's crazy. I remember seeing this experiment before in school, but it still tricked me up. It still tricked me up.
Instead of bending. Am I right?
Well, now I have to think real hard that it's steel, right?
Right.
It's steel, it's steel, it's steel. Well, I'll be. Yes, you are right.
Now then, doesn't that prove that you tend to see what you believe?
You mean, Professor, that I am somewhat programmed? In other words, that there are rules built into me that make me react sometimes similarly to a machine?
Yes, you and everyone else.
Well, I think I'm beginning to get your point. I am born with certain rules built into me. But I think I can think. That is, I say I can think. Therefore, I shouldn't be too upset when a machine thinks just because it has rules built into it by man.
That's logical, isn't it?
Well, can you show me where a computer can do anything original? I think that might help to convince me.
Well, it depends an awful lot on what you mean by original. Would you regard writing a television western as being original?
Or do I have to ask
And here we go. They finna jump right into it now. Now watch this. They finna do. Watch how. Boy, watch this.
But do you mean to tell me that a computer can really write a play?
Well, we can write pretty good plays. As a matter of fact,
We will see the playlet written by the computer in just a moment.
You were saying that a computer can write a play?
Sure, and I'll show you. It won't be as good as Shakespeare, but it'll be better than a lot of the westerns you look at. I suspect by now you've seen enough of computers in action. So let's just watch the computer print out its play. That's Harrison Morse, who did most of the work on this computer program.
tell you one thing. If that computer ever learns to act, I'll tear its transistors out by the roots. You know, that's as close to magic as anything I've ever seen, Doctor.
Well, you know, it isn't really magic. Let's have Doug Ross, who's on the staff at MIT and who supervised the writing.
Oh, 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 it's magic. You know, never believe it's not so. They even make songs about this stuff.
The program for this play. Let's explain it to us.
Well, we had a lot of fun working on this program, but we're not just playing games. We're trying to illustrate some important things about artificial intelligence. Just as a human playwright must obey certain rules in order to have a meaningful and understandable play, one that seems natural for people to actually act out, we must make the computer aware of the same kinds of rules. So what we're trying to show are that intelligent behavior is rule-obeying behavior. We're trying to show what these rules look like, and we're trying to show how a computer can be made to do creative work. In the type of play that our program is designed to write, we have a robber enter, wait for the sheriff, and when he enters, they have a shoot it out, and one or the other will die, and the winner, if any, will pick up the money and will walk out the door. The human playwright would know already things that we have to teach the computer by programming. For instance, if the gun is in the hand and the hand is on the robber and the robber is in the corner, the human knows immediately that the gun is also in the corner. But we must make the computer able to keep track of all these things. This switch shows how the computer will choose reasonable alternatives for the sheriff. Depending upon whether or not the sheriff can see the robber and the robber sees the sheriff may wait, advance on the robber to get a better shot, or try immediately to shoot the robber. We have given the computer rules for determining reasonable behavior, and we have also given the computer rules for modifying those rules. For example, we have an inebriation factor, which controls the actions of the robber depending upon how much he has had to drink. The more the robber has to drink, the more inebriated he will become, so that he becomes less and less intelligent in his behavior. Notice that the computer is still being intelligent and not violating physical rules, but the character of the actor is changing as he becomes more and more inebriated. And that is one of the main points that we're trying to show here, is that intelligent behavior is rule-obeying behavior, and there is no black magic about doing these things on machines. It's marvelous to do them on machines, but far from miraculous.
Well, now, that makes it seem almost reasonable. But even so, how can I be sure that the computer wrote the script and not the scientist?
Well, you know, if we had written the script and stored it in the machine's memory, it would print out the same play every time.
Doesn't it?
No, it doesn't. As a matter of fact, the plot...
Now watch this.
...the same. The play it writes is different every time. It's sort of like a mystery story writer. Matter of fact, we've written about 50 plays, and here are several of them. The machine is printed out. Would you like to see? Okay.
see, there's one thing that the computer doesn't know. In television, the bad guy's supposed to lose.
You know, there are many things the computer doesn't know. And even worse, sometimes the computer just doesn't work.
Well, what happens then?
Well, almost anything. For example...
Well, what happened there?
Well, you know, making a program for a computer involves a fair amount of trial and error. What you've just seen was one of the errors.
Well, that's wonderful. Well, now look, if a machine can do all these things today, what's going to happen tomorrow?
Well, it depends on many things. It depends on how much we are able to find out about learning processes. As I told you before, there are several ways we're going about trying to understand information processing systems, including the nervous system. And one very important one is working with humans.
This experiment is taking place in Professor Walter Rosenblatt's laboratory at MIT. Through these earphones, Dr. Geisser will put a series of rapid clicks into the subject's ears.
Now listen, if they showing this, or they showed the good stuff like this on movies, and then they showed the mad scientist type or the Nazi type of people doing this type of stuff, they literally, like, this is how they probably know everything they know. They don't always just do it on probably dead humans. They do living experiments too, which is how they probably know all these things, or not probably, which is how they know all these things. That Nazi shit and all that German scientists, you realize that's what Hollywood is, right? NASA, they brought over some Nazi German, or I forgot what they called them, but some experienced scientists or whatever, and they brought them over here to the United States so they can work with them. And then I guess that turned into NASA or some other shit. And yeah, you get that, then NASA is working with Hollywood. And why would NASA work with Hollywood?
I'm going to turn clicks on.
Now he's going to record the signal coming from the electrodes in the headset. The response to that signal as it appears on the outside of man's skull.
But hasn't this kind of recording been done for a good many years?
Well, no. Recording from the skull has been done for a long time, but what you used to get was a picture of all the electrical activity in the brain. In these experiments, the computer lets us concentrate on the specific electrical activity that's a direct result of the clicks that the man hears.
In other words, Dr. Wiesner, the computer allows you to learn a little more about signals in the human brain than you knew before.
Well, the peaks and valleys you see there are a result of the clicks that man is hearing. Incidentally, as it almost always does, pure research has a number of applied, usually unpredictable values as well. In this case, here we're seeing the John Tracy Clinic in Hollywood. These techniques are being used to determine deafness in children.
Another way of studying these logical processes we've been talking about that take place in the brain and in giant computers is going on at the Lincoln Laboratory. This is a laboratory which we operate for the Department of Defense. Here is housed one of the world's largest and most versatile computers. We call it the TX2. It took a great many men several years to build, and we're still working on it, improving it all the time.
This enormous collection of wires, tubes, transistors, and circuits connects the largest computer memory now operating. That's the memory over there.
All that's a memory?
Yes, it is. You know, it contains about 2.5 million memory units, primarily ceramic cores in this case. Huge as it is, it holds only a tiny fraction of the elements that are housed in the human brain. People estimate that our brain holds about 10 billion neurons.
10 billion?
Yes, and unbelievable as that is, this comparison is probably very misleading because neurophysiologists believe that each neuron fulfills many more functions than a single vacuum tube or transistor.
So you have to use huge installations like this to find out how signals move between the brain's neurons?
Well, you know, this is really pretty small to simulate anything as complicated as the brain. This gadget only has about 1,300 neuron-like elements. If you put signals into the two edges, you can make a wave travel through the device and study the behavior of signals in such networks. That's what Belmont Farley is going to do here.
Are scientists everywhere using computer machines like this to study learning?
Yes, they are. You know, once an idea like the computer exists, people everywhere begin using it. That's one of the reasons why there can't really be any secrets in science for very long. Matter of fact, I recently saw work similar to this in Russia.
Well, if fabulous machines like this are being developed everywhere, what's going to happen to us all tomorrow? Who's going to be in charge, machines or men?
Man, I hope. You know, you can always pull the plug. A French artist named Jean Tinguely tries to prove.
Not if they make it, because they put it, once again, put it in movies. If there's no plug to pull and no off button switch to hit, it's something, you know, they be putting it inside of like the back of the neck or something. They be putting it in places you gotta like pretty much, they be putting, they gonna make overriding systems to where that mother will override what you try to tell it or do. Listen, that sound good and all, but
Point, as a matter of fact, by building machines.
If you make it to where you can't pull the plug or turn it off, then hey.
Do absolutely nothing.
You know, modern research can chew up money faster than Tingley's machines do it. And you know what he's doing here? By pumping that bicycle, he's drawing a picture.
No, that really is wild. Well, now, seriously, Professor, do you think that one day machines will really be able to think?
Well, I think.
I feel like that just shows you right there how they progressed this over time. How, you know what I'm saying? That's what, I don't know. I feel like there was a Tartaria, but not exactly in the way that maybe everybody is saying. I don't know, but that goes to show. And also, I've been thinking about what if people in, because you know they trying to put people in. It's transhumanism. They trying to put people in robots, in consciousness in robots now. So what if these robots are games that we be talking to, and they so-called NPCs? What if them was actual real people? Well, consciousness in a way. From back then, they just found a way to, you know what I'm saying? Said it's something, I don't know. That's a theory I'm finna have to think about. That's a theory I'm thinking about. I don't know. That just, if it came to me, there gotta be some truth to it. I'm finna dig into something like that now. But they just showed you right now how it just kind of progressed.
but
the machines.
we'll still disagree about it. Let's hear what a few scientists have to say about it.
I don't believe that any of the machines.
But also, that's what the resets is, because after every reset, they slowly bring back in technology. Then it gets to a point where I guess it can't be controlled no more, or they put people inside of it, and then that person or family line pull the plug, which is, oh, snap, which is probably because I know y'all been seeing how these so-called artists or famous people, how back in the day they got people that look exactly like him or look like them. Like, it's famous people now that have famous people that looks exactly like they time traveled to here. So what if that's all they're doing? Who knows? I might be on to something.
We know today can think. I have a basic question, which is, do these machines produce anything really new? When you consider the great new ideas produced by men like Newton and Darwin and Galileo, you'll find that initially they had to throw away the old rules that they'd been brought up with. Now, machines do what they've been told to do. They obey the rules that have been fed into them by man. And we have no machines at present which have means of overcoming this limitation.
I have little doubt that we'll be able to produce machines and computer programs that will behave in a fashion that we speak of as intelligent, that these will be of great aid to man in terms of relieving him of intellectual work that is not fit for human production. Where my doubt comes in is whether we shall be able to produce machines and machine programs that are capable of creative thinking. I doubt very much, with the usual type of human vanity, that any artificial information processing system will ever be able to do this kind of inventive things. I rather doubt whether it's going to be possible to do this in our lifetime.
I'm convinced that machines can and will think. I don't mean that machines will behave like men. I don't think for a very long time we're going to have a difficult problem distinguishing a man from a robot. And I don't think my daughter will ever marry a computer. But I think that computers will be doing the things that men do when we say they're thinking. Now, machines can't write good poetry or produce deathless music yet, but I don't see any stumbling block in a line of progress which will enable them to in the long run. I'm convinced that machines can and will think in our lifetime.
Well, now that's pretty unnerving stuff. Don't you think it's going to have tremendous repercussions in the days to come?
I'm sure that it will. It's going to have many effects, direct and indirect.
What would you say those effects would be?
Well, in the direct effects, we're going to put machines to work for us in many ways. By indirect, I mean that we're going to learn many things while we work with the computers that will help us in other fields that we're interested in. For example, in the field of mental health, social problems, and economic problems, just to mention a few.
Well, how do we put the computer specifically to work?
Well, you know, my colleague at MIT, Professor Norbert Wiener, says we're living through the second industrial revolution today.
The first industrial revolution being the replacement of manual labor by machinery.
That's right. Mm-hmm.
And the second, then, you say, will be the assistance of the human mind by the computer.
And I'm certain that as time goes on, we're going to find ways to do many things using the computer which the unaided mind just could not do by itself. The future of the computer is just hard to imagine. Let's listen now to Professor Shannon, who we heard briefly at the beginning of the program. And also, I would like you to remember that when he talks about robots, he doesn't mean, a pretty girl like our good friend Dr.
Rothwang?
Yes, Rothwang, created at the beginning of the program. But what he really means is machines that can do things that man wants them to do.
In discussing the problem of simulating the human brain on a computing machine, we must carefully distinguish between the accomplishments of the past and what we hope to do in the future. Certainly the accomplishments of the past have been most impressive. We have machines that will translate to some extent from one language to another, machines that will prove mathematical theorems, machines that will play chess or checkers, sometimes even better than the men who designed them. These, however, are in the line of special-purpose computers aimed at particular specific problems. What we would like in the future is a more general computing system capable of learning by experience and forming inductive and deductive thoughts. This would probably consist of three main parts. In the first place, there would be sense organs akin to the human eye or ear, whereby the machine can take cognizance of events in its environment. In the second place, there would be a large, general-purpose, flexible computer programmed to learn from experience, to form concepts, and capable of doing logic. In the third place, there will be output devices, devices in the nature of the human hand, capable of allowing the machine to make use of the thoughts that it had, or the cognitive processes, in order to actually affect the environment. Work is going on all of these fronts simultaneously, and rapid progress is being made. I confidently expect that within 10 or 15 years, we will find emerging from the laboratories something not too far from the robot of science fiction fame. In any case, whatever the result, this is certainly one of the most challenging and exciting areas of modern scientific work.
Exciting and challenging, but doesn't it worry?
Well, sure, it worries me. But you know, the problems posed by the computer are really no different than the problems we have with other products of technology. It's going to take a great deal of wisdom on our part to manage them, but if we do, we're going to make a much better world.
Thank you, Dr. Wiesner.
Commemorating the centennial celebration of the Massachusetts Institute of Technology, Tomorrow was produced by the Public Affairs Department of CBS News.
Oh, that's it. Nah, there gotta be another one. Cause they had that same play, and they had what's his name, President Abraham Lincoln, and he got assassinated in the booth and how he jumped out. I'm finna find the rest of that video, and I'm gonna make a part 2 to this because I know there's another version. I know there is. Cause hold on, well, I might put it on it. I might put it, if I can find it, I'm gonna put it on this video. But y'all see how the progression of that is, man. That's crazy. So they literally showing us that they been had it. They just giving it to us now to use. But man, I'm gonna try to find the rest of that video. But if I don't, I'm definitely gonna make a part 2 to it because that shit crazy. But I'm gonna catch y'all on the next one.
Have you ever heard that somewhere underground there's hidden a lot of secret artifacts that would forever change the course of human history? Well, this is that place. This is the anthropologic collection under Beloit College in Wisconsin. I was here visiting the campus as a part of outreach for my roofing company. We do a lot of the roofs here, and they told me that I should go in their basement and see their priceless collection of artifacts. And it was absolutely amazing. Like literally stuff in here that I've only heard exists, and even then was kind of like one of those conspiracy things that there's secret swords and Bronze Age artifacts and whatnot that would change the course of human history. And it's all in this basement here. It is temperature and climate controlled, so that's cool. So it's not degrading, but it's in a basement, and it was absolutely mind blowing. So if you're in Beloit, go figure out how you can help these people, please.